Welcome back to another video. In this video, we'll see how to make API calls in Flutter. For those who don't know what API calls is, I'll just give a small intro and we'll move into the code. So generally in an organization, there are many roles, right? So for software team, there will be front-end developers, there will be back-end developers, testing people. So we Flutter developers are basically on the front-end side. So the backend team, they will write their code and they will put it in a server and they will give us a URL. Now when we call that URL, when we paste that URL in a browser or some client like Postman or Thunder client, so when we call that URL, we will get a response which will be mostly in form of JSON, and we'll use that JSON to display it in our Flutter app. So that's what we are going to do. So for that, we have a website. Now we don't have a backend developer, so we are using an open source API. So you can just go to swappy.dev. Here you will get a URL. So this is the URL, swappy.dev/API/people/index. Let's say we give starship/3 and we'll request this. Okay, we'll call it in separately. Okay, what about people? Okay, as you can see, we got a response, a body here when we use this people API. So this is the response that we'll get, and using this response, we'll be displaying it in our Flutter app. So there are basically two frameworks that we can use. One is just go to pub.dev and type dio. So this is one package that we can use and which will be using in this tutorial. The other package is HTTP. Both works the same. You can select any one of that and you can proceed. Uh, we will be using dio package in our case. Okay, first we'll just go and add dio package, copy it. This is our Flutter project, nothing, just the basic template. So I'll just go to pubsec.yaml and I'll use this dio package. Right, I hope it's been called. So you can see that the syntax is pretty simple. You just have to create a dio instance and you'll have to use this get method to and pass the API inside, you will get a response. So we'll just use this same code, we'll just copy it and we'll create a service folder here, and inside that we'll call API people. We'll create a class and we'll paste that code. Import should happen outside. So we created our dio instance and we have our method. We'll write get people, right? Yeah, and we'll have to pass our URL here. So what's the URL? So this is the URL. I'll just copy it and I'll paste it. Oops. Okay, and I'll print this response to show you what we get. So definitely there are much more works to do. First we'll see what response we are getting in this when we call this get people. So first we'll go to our home screen. Yeah, so I've just have a app bar here. I have a list builder. I'm just printing height wise, so quite basic stuffs going on here. So I'll just convert the stateless widget into stateful widget, right? So when the app loads, that API call should be the first thing that this class should call. So we have a thing called init state. So this function will always execute first when this file is being executed. This home class is being executed, right? And we'll create another folder called get data of people. And in this init state we'll call this get data of people function. Here we'll just call that API function and we'll see the response. So this should be of async. I hope you know what async await is. If you don't know, just go in and check out that concepts. uh, API people, and we'll just call get people function. Okay, this should be a future of a return type should be future, because we'll be spending some time here and then we'll return that value. So it's basically async await concept. Please check that out. So what I've done is, I hope this is clear. When the class executes first time, this function is being called, and inside this function I'm just making this API call. So when this API call is being executed, we can see the response being printed below. So we'll just hot restart it to see the output. So we can see that we got a response here, the same uh, what we say, JSON response. So directly we can use this response. We can just use this key values and we can get the values. We can display the values in the front end, but that's going to complicate things for you, because the keys might change, or there can be multiple keys. So in a larger project it will be very hectic. So for that we have a workaround here. So what we'll do is we'll create class methods, class models, sorry, which I have shown you in the previous video. If you haven't checked it out, just check out the previous video of class models. So we'll convert this JSON into class model. So we have the JSON sample here, right? So we'll just copy this, and in our new tab we'll type JSON2 dot. Earlier we wrote our own class model, but in this we'll just generate it. We'll just paste our sample and we'll give a class name here, which is people model, and we'll click on generate dot. So we got our class model here. We'll just copy this, copy dot code to clipboard, and we will create a new folder called models. Inside that we'll create a file people model dot dot, and we'll paste that. Okay, sometimes you might have to make some changes here. As we can see, we got one error. So the error is because this vehicles is defined as null, because here it is empty. We are passing empty values here. So what we'll do is we'll just delete this vehicles for now. We'll just delete this vehicles and starships, because there is no data in the API. Yeah, similarly for this. Right, so we have our people models ready here. So you can see that we have main two functions, from JSON and to JSON. So for in this case, which means from JSON we are converting it into models, from models we can convert it into JSON. Okay, so what we'll do is we will just we'll go to our API calls, and we have a response here. What we'll do is we'll just call people model from JSON, and we'll pass a response. Yes, and we have to pass data, so that's why I've written response dot data, right? And we'll just return this, which is going to be, it's not going to be void, it's going to be people model. And if we are returning people model, we'll have to call we'll have to expect it when we are calling it, right? So I'll just give people model, right? And here we'll print and see what we get. People model, let's say from the first index. Okay, it's going to be list of people model. It's going to be a list of people model. I hope, hopefully, correct. It's going to be a list of people's model. Mm, okay, it's not going to be a list of people model. It's just going to be people model, just one people, because we are defining the index here, right? So we'll just get one person. So it's not going to be a list. So we can just directly call the name here, which is like this, and we'll see if we are getting the output correctly. I'll just hot restart it. So we see that our name is being printed. So the JSON is successfully being converted into class models, and we are getting our response back. Okay, so uh, I'll so outside this build method, I'll declare people methods, people model, and this can be of null type. So I'll just give this p, and when we get the response, I'll just put that value inside people, right? And I'll just update the whole class. So what I'm doing is I've just initialized people outside this build method, and inside this get data of people, when I get the data, I'm just passing it into this people variable which I've created here. So I can say that when people is null, give me a circular progress indicator. When it is not null, then give me a list of all the people, which in this case it's just going to be one. So what I'll do is I'll just delete this, and I'll just pass the column here. So as we're going to have, you can use list builder when you have a list of people, but here we have just one people. So I'll just pass people dot name. We have to give a null check. So we are using null checks here. We are saying that there is no null values. You have to handle the null cases. So I'll just pass birth here. Then we have eye color, and finally we have, let's say, gender. So I'll just print these few values, and we'll see if it's working or not, right? So I'll just give a hot restart. So you can see a circular progress indicator while the Dio framework is fetching the response. And once it's being done, we can see that we are able to display our response here. So that was about API calls. So here I have just shown you a type of one of the type, which is get. Similarly, you have post as well. So I won't be showing you a demo here, but I'll just show you a syntax of how it will work. Post is where you send data to API. So you'll just have to pass a post instead of get. You have to pass post, and you will pass the API, whichever API you are getting. And we have multiple options here, right? We'll have to pass data. Inside this data, you will pass whatever data you are sending it to the API. But and if you want to send tokens, if the API requires tokens and stuff, you have an options here. Here you can pass extra token bearers and all that stuff here. So that was about API calls, and this was a simple demo of API calls, but definitely you'll have to optimize this in your real world projects. You can't just be using set state and update the value on the screen. A better way to handle this is using future builders. uh, I'll be posting video on it soon. So if you like this video, show your support by subscribing to this channel. See you in the next video.